No mai haere mai, tēnā koutou katoa, talofa at the end of what has been Samoan Language Week. Hey, it's a long weekend. I've thought twice about doing a live this week. I'm tired. I've got 100 other things that I should be doing. I've got a pile of to-do lists out there that I'm ready to go through and I guess do some culling. I've done that classic, sometimes when you spread yourself too thin, you say yes, you want to do everything, you want to do it perfectly. I guess that's been me the last couple of weeks and certainly the next 4 weeks ahead, and I'm conscious of that. And I found myself as well slipping into some bad habits as a result of that. So the last 2 weeks have been pretty full on, busy, lots of travel. And things like my yoga practice, exercise, those things have taken a back seat. I know I haven't been doing enough of that. And interestingly enough, last night, Friday night, came home, sat down with my partner, had a glass of wine, we reconnected after a busy week, unwound. I accidentally drank the whole bottle and not feeling particularly great this morning. And you notice when those habits, those coping mechanisms that aren't necessarily healthy start to creep back in as well. So I wanted to be really real and honest and open about that today and really take some advice from some awesome women that I heard speak this week at the Women in Leadership Symposium up in Auckland. I'm going to talk a bit about that today, but I also want to just touch on that. It's really common and it's something we don't often show up and admit, because when we're high achievers, we are driven by the need to succeed. We like to be busy, we take on a lot, we don't often say no. And then when we've taken on all that stuff, we want to please people, get it done perfectly, and keep striving, keep succeeding. And it's a common trap that high achievers fall into, and it's why we end up often tired and exhausted. So, long weekend, and I was actually thinking, you know what, this weekend I really need to get some work done, but I've decided that the priority here is actually having some rest. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'd encourage you to reflect as well, particularly if you're a high achiever driven by success. Have you spread yourself too thin? What's on your plate at the moment? What can you say no to? How can you weave into that some time for you? And are you in need of some rest? Because quite often we are, but it's that drive inside us that keeps us going. We need to do more. We want to get this right. So I've had a sleep in this morning. I've made some time to meditate, so I'm feeling a lot better. And the long weekend stretch before me, whilst there is a temptation to do some work, once I've got my to-do lists in order and I feel a bit better about the next week ahead, I'm going to shut the door on the office this weekend. So I want to talk to you about this. So you might have seen the blog that I did on the Women in Leadership Symposium that I was lucky enough to go to in Auckland this week. There were some amazing women there. So we heard from the likes of Cecilia Robinson, the founder of My Food Bag, Georgina Bayer, the Right Honourable Dame Patsy Reddy was there. We had Valerie Adams, one of our top athletes. We heard from Anika Ma. There were just so many stories and really good advice, and I wanted to share some of that with you. I've actually written a blog on my experiences from the conference because it was just so awesome. I wanted to share it for those that hadn't been there. So I'll pop the link for that in this live. But I want to sort of just talk a bit about, yes, it was a leadership symposium, but my take on leadership. I believe that we're all leaders. We don't have to be CEOs. We don't have to have manager in our job titles. We lead ourselves. We lead our lives. We're the leaders of life, leaders of our family. And yeah, we all lead in one way or another. And the stuff that was shared at this conference is more kind of skills for life, I think, than just leadership per se. And I want to just go through some of that, or certainly some of the nuggets, I guess, that I picked up from this conference. And one of the things that Dame Patsy Reddy kicked off with that really stuck with me was this notion of being close to perfect, because we're all on that journey. We all want to do everything and do everything well and for it to be perfect, and we often beat ourselves up when it's not. And she said something really interesting that stuck with me, and that's the closer to perfect you are, the less people will trust you, the less authentic you appear. And it's so true. So I'm always big on putting authenticity first, but we do have this drive to be perfect, to get things perfect, and that can be at the cost of our authenticity. Now, talking of being real, being authentic, Jackie Clark, founder of the Aunties, I was lucky enough to meet her at the conference, and she was awesome, so real, unapologetically her. She said to me on day one, she was speaking on day two, she said to me on day one, I don't have any slides and I swear a lot, but she got up on stage anyway. She shared her story, and the advice that she gave to us was, stop trying to fit in all the time. Stop worrying about what people think. You know, stand up, be noticed, be you, stand in your power. And she also coined my new favourite quote, which is, own your shit, own your shine. And I really like that, and it really sums Jackie up well, and all that she was saying. We had some real leadership wisdom from Tracy Holpapper, and I'll run through a few of her top tips because she had many of them, and she was a real powerhouse. Think big, plan small, make it manageable. No one person in the room knows more than the whole room put together. Really true, you know, seeking support, surrounding yourself with others, and not having to do it all alone, because that's another trap we can often fall into as perfectionists, as high achievers. Make sure you're strong on non-negotiables. Now, this was a big one for her, you know, the whole kind of put your own life jacket on first before helping others. And she talked about failure and how we learn from that failure being a friend, and you'll know if you followed me for a while that that's something that I talk a lot about and believe in. But one of the things was interesting when she talked about, quite often, you know, when we do burn ourselves out, when we do lose our mojo, the way she phrased it, you didn't lose it, you gave it away. And I think that's real powerful. You know, we do have control of this, and it's about what we do to keep our own mojo afloat. And so that's going to be a focus for me over the next few weeks. And then to finish, we had Anika Ma to finish off, and she was great. Someone that I've admired, and was it was a pleasure to meet. And she was talking about getting back on the horse, and it's okay not to be okay. You know, sometimes we do fail, sometimes we do take on too much, and sometimes we do get exhausted, get tired, beat ourselves up then for not coping and for not doing the right things, or for having too many wines on a Friday night. And you beat yourself up more when you know this stuff and you know you should know better, especially if you teach it to others and write about it. And she talked about getting back on the horse. You know, it's okay not to be okay, but keep getting back on that horse. And she said something that stuck with me. I'm flawed and I'm also amazing. And I think that applies to so many of us. And one of the takeaways really from this conference that we kept coming back to is, when we're tired, it's not about giving up, although sometimes we feel like it. Rest, don't give up. And that's certainly something that I've taken away and definitely have a great need to apply to this weekend and to the next couple of weeks ahead. So I thought I'd share some of that wisdom with you because it resonated so much with me, and hopefully it's useful to you. I hope you have a great long weekend. Enjoy the long weekend, have a break, and just do some reflection on your own kind of schedule and to-do list. If you are a high achiever, if you are a perfectionist, if you've been driving for so long and striving and juggling so many things and you're feeling a bit tired, then maybe it is time to rest. Maybe it is time to reprioritize and make sure that you don't give your mojo away.